We have to switch to English because we have Mr. Sebastian Sam.
Hello everyone, how's it going?
Welcome in Tilburg.
Thanks very much.
I heard you're enjoying the city a lot.
I do actually. I came in yesterday and I was really surprised by how pleasant the city is, how open everything is and how clean. And I walked around last night. It was really nice actually. Not just because of the balmy weather, which I didn't expect here. But in general I kind of liked it actually.
And your regular hangout is Berlin, so that's really a world city.
Yeah, self-declared world city.
Self-declared world city.
If it's really one, but yeah, that's my home base. Yeah.
And of course now there's a big movie scene also in Berlin. I think every year there are big bears to be won there. Is that?
You heard that one right?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And now you're bringing a beautiful musical documentary to Tilburg. What's the documentary and how did it start, the story of the documentary?
It is a film about a Chilean musician who doesn't have a lot of attention in his home country, most surprisingly, because he's a real genius. He lost his right arm when he was 14 years old and reinvented himself as a musician, actually creating his own technique, playing the guitar. And not just that, he's also he plays in prisons. He tries to motivate people. He's not just a musician. He's also, in Spanish, you say a gestor cultural, which means like a bit of a social entrepreneur. Actually, as I said, he goes to prisons, tries to motivate people. He goes to schools also, and we kind of try to show this in the film that is called arte perder, which means the art of losing. As I learned, die Kunst von het verliezen in my best Dutch. And so this is what the movie is about. It was released in 2022, like in late 2022 in Chile, and has since traveled 15 festivals around the world, including this one. And I'm very happy that we finally brought it to this country also, because it's going to be a premiere tonight.
Oh, nice. And the way that you speak the Spanish words is very natural. Do you have a connection with Chile or with the Spanish? No? No,
it's just that I actually learned Spanish before, and then in 2014, when we embarked on this project, I traveled to Chile frequently actually since that moment, and you just have to speak Spanish in that country, otherwise you will not be understood, and this is how I learned it.
And it's like 8 years, so it's 2014 until the release in 2022. What happens in between? Because that's quite a period.
I don't quite know what to say to that. What happened is that we ran out of money, obviously. We went to a rough cut screening where we were shot down in flames. You know, these typical kind of things that you experience during the production of a documentary. Then Corona came. We kind of had in mind to release this film in 2020. We all know why this couldn't happen. And then we looked for really a good festival to launch the film. Eventually we found a pretty important music documentary film festival in Chile. So we said, okay, we're going for it. And we waited until December 2022 to launch this.
So you made a musical documentary about a man who went through several deep crises. What did it do to you as a person?
Seeing his recovery, you mean? Is super inspiring. Actually, for the first time I saw him playing live, I was already mesmerized by what the guy is able to do, and also by the vibe that he actually sends out. He has a very positive attitude to life. I mean, not always. We see this also in the movie. He has the occasional rants, but we all know this. And so basically, his way of being is very inspiring. The cameraman and I, when we first also toured with him in Asia in 2014, in late 2014, we were really surprised how he manages to communicate also with the people, because his English is, as said in the movie, not all that really, but he manages through the language of touching and of looking and of playing music essentially also to reach out to the people, which I found very inspiring.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot happening in Chile at the moment. So it's a controversial country because there's a lot of political and maybe even cultural stuff happening there. Did you? Yeah, actually, what strikes me the most, I like to tell this story. When we first came to Chile in 2015, actually in early 2015. We traveled to his hometown called San Antonio. And there, the first thing his brother told me was, when we took a car and drove to a place where we wanted to shoot, he said, well, in this river, in September 1973, 150 people were drowned by the Pinochet regime, and the people who actually committed this crime are still running free today. And I was like, wow.
This country has an issue, apparently. I mean, I'm from a country that committed atrocious crimes, and where people were not always persecuted in the way they should have been. But in Chile, there seems to be something really systematic to this that was kind of overthrown in 2019. There was a revolt, which we managed to include in the movie also. Yeah. But the result of this revolt is still kind of unwritten. Like they wanted to introduce a new constitution. They have a new president now, Mr. Boric. The previous president died in the meantime in a helicopter crash. But the previous president was a bit of a representative of the old Pinochet times. And the new one wanted to draft a new constitution, but he failed so far. Yeah. So this country still waits for the change actually that it deserves, I believe.
So comparing to the musical aspect, the social aspect is even more important for you as a filmmaker.
Let's say the musical aspect emotionally got me into this, but the social aspect is something you cannot turn a blind eye to, I would say, because it is so obvious in Chile. You and I, we are from countries that are kind of well off economically, we don't have these huge social divisions actually as they have in Chile, but Chile is a country that has crazy social divisions, which you just feel in the capital, Santiago. If you travel from the east, the far east of the country, of the capital is where all the rich people live. And the further west you go, actually, the poorer it gets, and it gets really poor and dangerous and run down and so on. So this is Chile, actually. It's a very harsh, it's not just a very beautiful country, it's also a very difficult country.
What was your initial idea to make the film about? About the musician or about something else?
Honestly, about both, because I don't
From the beginning?
Yeah, from the very beginning. I had conversations with Andres, who had offers in Chile to do a documentary about his life, which he all declined, because they said they only want to create a circo barato, cheap circus actually, of my drama, and I'm not available for this. Because I'm a political human being, I'm a social human being.
Not a circus act.
So I'm not a clown, basically.
Yeah.
And so you're intertwining two different storylines. What do you hope people take home at the end of the movie?
I hope they take home the idea that even though life can be hard on you, you can absolutely continue living your dreams if you are inventive, if you're creative enough actually to find a new way, because obviously Andres has an arm less. Yeah, that's an undeniable fact. Yep. And he is a disabled person, as we say. Yep. But he had to live with it, and he kind of still suffering from this on a daily basis today. Yeah. But he found his own way out into something new, and I found this very inspiring. That's the one thing. The other thing I would like people to take home is that they feel Chile as a country. That they feel the beauty of the country, the roughness of the country, the problems of the country, but also potential solutions, actually. That's what I would like people to take home.
That's a big thing.
Yes.
So,
well, yeah, you always you can well
That's
hope what people take home in the end. Everybody has their own kind of impressions from this.
Definitely.
But this is, in an ideal world, this is what I would hope people take home from tonight's screening.
And we hope that there are even more people now that are saying we need to see this, so that more people are going to take this message home. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck, and be welcome in Tilburg always. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.